Asia's stake in the world markets has grown significantly in the last half-century. Today, many Asian countries are the top producers of various agricultural, fishing, mining, and industrial products. According to the Asian Development Bank or ADB, the agriculture sector alone employs one-third of Asia's workers. Across Asia, micro, small, and medium enterprises or MSMEs are rapidly flourishing and form the backbone of the economic growth, accounting for an average of 97% of all enterprises and 69% of the national labor force. However, MSMEs and individual households are increasingly confronted with enormous risks due to frequently occurring natural disasters such as typhoons, storms, earthquakes, tsunamis, landslides, floods, and droughts. Most vulnerable to these are low-income and poor households and small businesses which often do not have financial resources for recovery.
Para po maging safe yung aking tindahan at halimbawa man may dumating na hindi natin inaasahan, halimbawa lindol o di kaya bagyo o kung ano pa mang mga dilubyong dumating, mas maigi na pong nakaready tayo.
Building resilience through pro-poor insurance that would enable people to withstand and recover after every shock has become a policy goal for governments and policymakers in Asia. For the Deutsche Gesellschaft für internationale Zusammenarbeit, the German Development Cooperation or GIZ, resilience building is a priority. Thus, in the last decade, GIZ and its partners have joined hands towards the development of an inclusive insurance market, primarily addressing the protection and recovery needs of the poor and vulnerable through the project called Regulatory Framework Promotion of Pro-Poor Insurance Markets in Asia, or RFPI Asia. Commissioned by the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, or BMZ, RFPI and its partners have successfully strengthened regulatory and supervisory conditions and practices and established the prerequisites for climate risk insurance for the poor and vulnerable in Asia.
The development of pro-poor insurance market started with RFPI, which was implemented from January 2013 to December 2015. This was carried out in 6 countries, namely Indonesia, Mongolia, Nepal, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. These countries were selected based on defined parameters, namely regulatory authorities acting as drivers for microinsurance, private sector involvement, microfinance sector development, and financial inclusion measures introduced. The baseline for RFPI came from the rich experience in microinsurance development in the Philippines under a bilateral project called Microinsurance Innovations Program for Social Security, or MIPS. The project was commissioned by BMZ and implemented by GTZ, now GIZ, from January 2009 to December 2012.
In May 2013, regulators from the 6 countries, together with representatives from the ADB and RFPI, met in Cebu City in the Philippines and founded the Mutual Exchange Forum on Inclusive Insurance, or MEFIN, a platform through which relevant knowledge and best practices are shared.
In May of 2013, convened policymakers and the insurance regulators in 6 countries in Asia in order to take up a very important subject. That is how we can promote insurance for the poor and the underprivileged in this part of the world, so that insurance will be able to help the governments in these countries to eradicate poverty. MEFIN came into being as a result of that meeting.
Within 3 years, RFPI and its partners were able to achieve, amongst others, the establishment of MEFIN, the development of a methodology for regulatory impact assessment, or RIA, and the development of 7 microinsurance regulatory frameworks and directives, such as Indonesia's Grand Design for Microinsurance, Nepal's first microinsurance directive, Philippines' regulatory framework for health microinsurance or microhealth, Mongolia's official definition on inclusive insurance. Alongside these achievements was the emerging challenge of making the regulatory frameworks work effectively and in practice. Thus, in 2016 to 2018, with fresh funding from BMZ, RFPI pursued a strategy that would help protect clients from unfair business practices and ensure that insurance providers and distributors would fulfill the requirements of the regulations. RFPI worked with MEFIN as a primary partner in promoting inclusive insurance through capacity building, public-private dialogues, studies, and knowledge exchange. In support of the project, MEFIN established a Regional Steering Committee, or RSC, composed of regulators to provide strategic direction to the network. The RSC established 5 technical working groups to respond to various concerns of the members, and RFPI served as the secretariat of the network. The successful collaboration in the working groups led to the following main achievements of RFPI. MEFIN regulators adopted proportionality in product development, distribution, and regulation, thus ensuring that insurance costs are not prohibitively high in practice. And 37 knowledge products on regulation, capacity building, innovative business models, and use of technology were developed and disseminated through the MEFIN and RFPI websites. After successfully improving regulatory conditions and practices, it became clear that there is the urgent need to protect the poor and at-risk populations and MSMEs against increasingly extreme weather events and climate-induced crises. For this reason, BMZ commissioned a third phase of RFPI focusing on climate and disaster risk insurance, or CDRI, from 2019 to 2022.
In this third phase, RFPI worked with government and private partners in 3 of the 7 MEFIN countries, the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. In the Philippines, the focus was on strengthening the insurance program for micro, small, and medium enterprises. In Vietnam, it was the National Agriculture Insurance Program, while in Indonesia, the National Aquaculture Insurance Program was enhanced. MEFIN remained as partner of the project, particularly in public-private dialogues, capacity building, and knowledge exchange.
RFPI established multi-agency national task forces, or NTFs, for climate and disaster risk insurance in the Philippines and in Vietnam, and worked with them with the development of CDRI solutions. These task forces were led by the Ministries of Finance. In Indonesia, the project forged cooperation with the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries with support from the insurance regulator. In the past 4 years, including 2 pandemic years of COVID-19, RFPI has tangibly contributed to the protection of poor and at-risk population and MSMEs in Asia against extreme weather events and climate-induced crises. RFPI's milestone achievements were integration of climate and disaster risk insurance in a national program of each of the 3 countries, development of 3 new climate and disaster risk insurance products, development of 2 mobile applications, 1 for MSME insurance and 1 for telemedicine services, and conduct of a market study to support the development of natural catastrophe insurance products in the Philippines.
Thì tôi thấy là tham gia cái bảo hiểm này nó cũng rất là cái tính yêu Việt, mà không may mà bị rủi ro về cái thời tiết cũng như con người kia thì là rủi ro về thiên tai, sâu bệnh nhất, mà được hưởng như thế thì tôi thấy là cũng tốt. Đối với người dân mà trong khi bỏ ra có 100.000 một sào mà được hưởng gấp lên 1,4 triệu thì tôi thấy là điều rất cao.
The three phases of RFPI have significantly contributed to improvements in regulatory measures. New business models that have been developed by insurance companies, resulting into more insurance offerings for poor and vulnerable households and MSMEs, and this was accompanied by higher levels of financial literacy and awareness for the benefits of insurance. In short, RFPI has contributed to broadening financial protection and narrowing the risk protection gap for poor and vulnerable segments of our societies. The contributions of the project were made possible through, firstly, the establishment of the MEFI network, a platform and partner in knowledge exchange, international dialogues, and capacity building. Secondly, by building lasting partnerships between government bodies, insurance companies, social political organizations, and all other relevant partners in the insurance value chain. Thirdly, RFPI fostered cooperation with development partners like ADB, I2II, ILO, and Microinsurance Network to leverage joint knowledge and resources and work towards a common goal. And last but not least, numerous research outputs were produced and discussed in online and offline events that helped advancing climate risk insurance in Asia.
This has been the story of RFPI and its partners in a decade of building inclusive insurance markets for the poor and at-risk households and MSMEs in Asia, by Asia, and for Asia. The journey can continue and reach further goals through cooperation and complementation among stakeholders.